What? What is it? What's wrong?
Ah. That episode happened. I'm starting to think this little lady right here, Wanda herself, may not actually be the protagonist of WandaVision, but maybe more so the antagonist. So WandaVision episode 4, oh my. This was nothing like the first 3 episodes. So this episode does not follow the structure of the first 3 whatsoever. And I'll admit, last week I was sort of suspecting that soon we might get an episode like this, but still I couldn't have anticipated just like how exhilarating and frankly a little bit unsettling it was. Some people may have been predicting, like myself, we were expecting that this the first episode was the 50s, second the 60s, third one the 70s. So we thought, okay, this one will be a sitcom homage to the sitcoms of the 80s. No, it's not. This episode is in the real world, and we are seeing the entire first 3 episodes over again, or at least that time period. We're going through that whole time that those episodes take place over again, but from the perspective of all the SWORD agents and everyone, the FBI agents, everyone outside of the dome that Wanda's created. So we see basically, I think this is the first, we saw briefly more comedically in Spider-Man Far From Home at the beginning, but this time we see sort of the darker side of what was kind of going on, the more real kind of human thing that happened when suddenly the Avengers, when the Hulk snapped everybody back from being dusted, and we're seeing everyone sort of rematerializing, starting with Monica Rambeau in this hospital, and we see suddenly, she thinks, but for the blip, the people who were blipped, they don't even really realize they're blipped at first. Just suddenly they're back and they think they've fallen asleep or something and they're a bit hazy and they don't think any time has passed. So I guess she was in the hospital with her mother who was being treated for cancer. And then she realizes, they tell her, oh, well, your mother died 3 years ago, 2 years after you got blipped. So these 5 years just felt like no time at all passed for them. They thought they just took a little nap or something. So you can't even imagine just kind of how jarring that would be for someone to experience and how traumatic. Like, this is exactly what I wanted from Phase 4. Like, we're seeing, because we've only really seen a very small perspective of what the dusting was sort of in Infinity War and Endgame, and it's only from the Avengers perspectives, really. Now we're seeing like it from a ground level, the people. We're getting to know characters like Monica Rambeau. And so we know her mom from Captain Marvel is in fact dead now. I'm sure that'll be more of a explored in Captain Marvel 2. Monica Rambeau now, we see she's a SWORD agent. She was a SWORD agent before she's blipped, and she sort of is getting reacquainted with the world now that she's come back from being dusted. And I think she's sent on this to like investigate what's going on with what's happening with the dome thing that Wanda is creating seemingly, and that's where she meets Jimmy Woo, and he sort of explains to her that this whole town disappeared and everyone surrounding it sort of have this sort of amnesia. So she ends up, this is where we see she goes into the dome. So Jimmy Woo is Randall Park's character from the second Ant-Man movie. So we've got these two actors now from the MCU. Randall Park is Jimmy Woo, and Kat Dennings back as Darcy Lewis. It was from the first 2 Thor movies, so we haven't seen her in a long time.
Darcy? Jane!
Most people weren't huge fans of her.
Mia!
But I think they're using her in a very appropriate way. So these are 2 very comedic characters, so they go together pretty well. And yeah, I don't think I was a big fan of any of the movies they were in, maybe except the first Thor movie. But now suddenly that they're in this, that suddenly they're a lot more interesting characters already. And we see that SWORD is bringing in all these different sort of experts in these different fields because they don't really know what this dome is or what's happening. Darcy is actually the one, it seems, who basically is sort of able to decode Wanda. She's putting out this frequency that sort of Darcy picks up because that's her. She's a techie sort of person, but only like an old TV is going to be able to pick it up. And then surely enough, they get an old TV and they pretty much are just watching. I think if you were just confused about what the heck's going on. Well, this episode pretty much tries to answer just that, and the characters are just as confused as we are, and they're like, wait, but why are we seeing everything that's going on as a sitcom? I was talking about last week, I was trying to figure out the rules of how this whole dome thing worked, so I thought at first, oh, well, maybe once you go in, it's sort of, you see what Wanda wants you to see. And really, we see how the beekeeper guy comes up, and he's sort of in some sort of other kind of suit, not a beekeeper suit, but as he goes through the force field, it sort of morphs their clothes in to fit in with the setting. And we're learning everyone, like I thought this, everyone in there is a real person. And, well, I think near the end of the episode, after we see Scarlet Witch basically throw Monica Rambeau out of the scene, then suddenly it goes widescreen again, and we see sort of the reality breaks, seems just for Wanda. We see sort of the ugly truth of what's really happening, and it was, I gotta say, this one moment, I thought this was pretty eerie, unsettling stuff, at least by MCU standards. Maybe, yeah, this was probably the eeriest sort of moment in the MCU thus far, but I wouldn't be surprised if the show gets even eerier as it goes. But we see Vision for what he really is. Wanda, he's a corpse. He looks just like how he did in the end of Infinity War. His head is like ripped apart, and he's all like gray and discolored. He's dead. Wanda's like reanimated him, and she knows it. She knows it. It's clear now. She knows it. She's behind it. It's kind of sick. She's doing some pretty messed up stuff right now. Like, that's pretty sick stuff. Reanimating Vision's body, and just kind of ultimately, like, at the end of the day, this is all for her. Vision's dead. He's not really there. It's really kind of sad and tragic, and I don't know. This episode was just I think it was the best one so far. I loved last week's, and I gave that one like a 10. I don't think I'm really gonna bother even sort of putting like a number up on the screen, because honestly, when I like a show this much, every episode's probably somewhere between a 9 to a 10. So this episode was easily a 10 if you want me to like know my rating. It's probably above a 10 for me. But this is one of the, I'm gonna say, like, I think this is not only the best episode of WandaVision thus far, it's probably gonna top itself at least one more time in the season. But like, I think this is like about as good as TV gets. This is like one of the best episodes of television ever. I think it's up there with the best episodes of the best TV shows ever. Like, as you know, I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. I think this is up there with like the best episodes of that show and other great shows like The Leftovers or Breaking Bad. Like, it was really funny, so some people might write it off as, oh, it's still kind of marvelly comedic, but the way that they're doing the comedy, it's so smart, it's so well thought out, it's picking up faster than I actually thought it would. Like, some people thought it'd be slow at the beginning, but honestly, after this episode, it's moving quicker than I thought. I didn't think we'd get to this many revelations in this episode already, so I'm guessing next week we get the 80s episode, but who knows? Okay, well, that's my thoughts on this one. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and yeah, take care. Bye.